come in and listen. This is what is happening every day in Washington. We are being shut out of the process. And those representatives in the minority are being shut out of the process. Again, I cannot emphasize enough how important November 2nd is. This is our opportunity to send a message to Washington that we've had enough. Now, I told you I'm a city councilwoman in Montgomery, and I have my home telephone number in the phone book, and I will tell you that nobody quite understands accountability like that. But I understand that you want to see and feel and touch and know the person that is advocating on your behalf, know the person that is raising their hand on your behalf. That is what I will be if given the opportunity, again, to represent you in Congress. We must restore the public's trust. I support this 72-hour law that the Republicans have tried to put in to effect, which would require, can you believe it, 72 hours before any legislation is voted on the floor of the House of Representatives. So maybe there would be time enough for the congressmen and women to actually read the bill before it's voted on. I tell this story often. And some of you may have heard this, and I apologize, but I'll never forget watching C-SPAN the day that Congress was to vote on what I like to call the cap and tax bill. And Leader Boehner was making his last and final plea on the floor of the House of Representatives, and he said, you know, I was woken up this morning at about 3 o'clock in the morning to the sound of my fax machine. And you know what was coming over my fax machine? But a 300-page amendment to this legislation that you're asking me to vote on right now. And this was at about 10 or 11 Eastern time. Who read it? Who could understand it? Who could digest it? Ms. Pelosi said herself, let's pass this health care bill and then we can find out what's in it. That is not transparent. That is not being accountable to the people that you represent, and we must change that. Before I get to your questions, I would just say that we certainly need a stronger America, both here at home and abroad. I believe in the sanctity of life. I believe in the protection of the Second Amendment. And I believe in the central role of faith and family in our lives. And no matter where I go, I will not waver. Those are my beliefs. That is my core. That is who I am. We are blessed here in Alabama, in the 2nd District, to have 2 of the finest military installations in the world right here. And we need to know that our congressman isn't just up in Washington voting right, but fighting for our bases here in Alabama so that we can expand their missions and continue to be the tip of the spear in our nation's warfighting machine. And of course, whereas there's no current plans for BRAC, I can assure you with Washington's addiction to spending, it's coming, and we better be ready, and we better be ready to fight so that we can continue to have these fine military installations. And of course, the most honorable title any person in this country could ever have is that of veteran. And I wouldn't be standing here right now but for those who have put their lives on the line to fight for our very freedoms. And I will support you, I will go to bat for you, and I will always be grateful for the sacrifice that you and your family have made to make this country so great. I've actually taken up too much time because we need to spend the most of the time hearing from you. So again, thank you very much. The floor is open. I want to hear from you. It doesn't have to be a question. Feel free just to stand up and say what's on your heart and your mind, and I'm happy to answer. Yes, sir.
I'm a veteran, and right now, we've got men in Afghanistan and Iraq, people I know that are trying to defend this country against the threat. The back door of this country is wide open. They will not close the border. Bush would not close the border. I don't know what the problem is with closing the border, but I know, having been in Europe a number of years, you can close the border, you can stop it. Whether it has to do with potential volunteer soldier lays life on the line in Afghanistan. And some SOB can just walk through, and you have sanctuary cities, and you have federal agencies that aren't even deporting people. When you deport them, all they do is bring them back, and they should drop them out of an airplane. So, I mean, I don't know what you can do about that, but that's my personal concern. It's Arizona's problem now. The gang problem is moving this way in 13, and at some point it's going to impact everything. So that's.
No, I appreciate your comments very much. Just so you know, everyone here knows where I am on this issue. First of all, it's a problem that Arizona is facing, but it's a problem for us all. Because you hit the nail on the head. This is a national security threat for our entire country. Everybody coming over our southern border isn't from south of the United States. There's plenty of people entering into our country that way that could potentially pose a serious national security threat to our freedom and liberty right here in the United States. Two things. Protect the border and enforce the laws that we already have. We hear a lot of stuff on the 24/7 news cycle right now addressing, in my opinion, issues that are symptomatic of the larger issue. The larger issue is protect the border, whether it's increasing border patrol, a virtual fence, an actual fence, whatever it may be, National Guard units. We must get a handle on this situation. Enforce the laws we already have. 17% of those crossing Arizona's border right now already have a felony arrest record in the United States. We are not doing our job. The federal government has failed us. They wrote this Immigration and Nationality Act and said, we want to be the sole enforcers. And they haven't enforced it. On the Montgomery City Council, I chaired a committee on immigration. And we were able to pass an ordinance that today has not been challenged in court that basically says if you, as a business, knowingly hire an illegal, meaning you don't send the federal government, you don't have to be a document reader or an expert in knowing whether they're documents. If you send the I-9, you do everything that you're supposed to do, then you're not in violation. So it's if you knowingly hire someone who is illegal, then the city of Montgomery can take away your privilege to do business within the city of Montgomery. That is included in a portion of Arizona's law. I continue to support Arizona in their efforts to take care of a situation where, again, their federal government has failed. This is a very, and when you're questioning, I don't understand why this isn't being addressed. Well, I don't understand why it isn't being addressed either. And I think it has a lot to do with leadership. It has a lot to do with political will. It has a lot to do with wanting to keep one's job rather than doing what's right. So again, it's so important, it's so crucial at this time in our country that we are electing people to represent us that have the guts to do what's right, to protect our sovereignty as a nation rather than what may be politically correct. Yes?
Where do you stand on amnesty? I know you oppose it, but do you have a...
Yes, I will not support any legislation that contains the word amnesty or any idea that looks like amnesty. Somebody told me, amnesty in disguise, I guess. I answered that question at another town hall, and this man said, well, I know you said you wouldn't support it if it's amnesty, but what if it doesn't actually use the word amnesty? So even if it's amnesty in disguise, I certainly will not support it. So, yes, sir.
I don't know what he said. President, my position on the, I was at the doctor's office recently, and on the wall, the doctor had, there was a lot of signs on the wall about the body. And different parts on one side, and on it that just one cigarette has over 200 points